I've already filmed a couple of videos in my office space here, and I've already run into one distinct problem in this space. It's an okay sized bedroom, 10 foot by 12 foot, but I'm running into a problem with three-legged things. Not her, she has four. I mean these things, which are used to hold these things, which I use to make these videos. Right now, it's filming with this camera, my main one, sitting on top of my computer, so that I don't have to have another tripod or light stand taking up space. And ideally, I'd prefer to be using these shotgun microphones that are much more directional, and I like the way they sound in my voice versus the lavalier that I've been using to this point, because I haven't wanted to dedicate yet another stand to hold a microphone for me. I just want to simplify things a bit, especially in the smaller space here. So I'm going to do what plenty of people on YouTube have done already, but I'm going to put my own spin on it, the one stand YouTube setup. And of course, for me, that means bringing a bunch of 3D printing into it. Let's dive right into building it after a word from this video sponsor. I've got a fair few woodworking projects that I want to tackle here in this office in the near future. The problem is that my education in woodworking is all School of Hard Knocks and high school woodshop class from 2002. So I could use a refresher. And that's where WoodWorkers Guild of America comes in. WoodWorkers Guild of America is an expansive online platform. It's like having a whole community of skilled woodworkers right at your fingertips. They've got step-by-step videos, project ideas, and tons of tips that'll have you leveling up your woodworking game in no time. Whether you're just starting out or you've been at it for years, there's something for everybody. Wood turning, joinery, and basic shop safety too. What I really like is these aren't just basic tutorials. They're taught by pros who break things down in easy to follow steps. Plus, they keep adding new content, so you're never short on inspiration. So if you're looking to up your woodworking skills like I am, join the Woodworkers Guild of America. They have a special deal going right now. The first 1,000 people who follow my link in the description will get 1 year of premium access for just $1.49. Check out that link, and thank you to Woodworkers Guild of America for sponsoring this video. Now let's get this stand built. Our overall concept is very straightforward. We take a rolling C-stand like this from the Impact brand of B&H, and we condense our entire filming setup down to this one stand, so it has a smaller footprint and can be easily repositioned around the room. As I said, this has been done many times. I've got a few things I'm going to add on to this though, to give it my own flair and complete the setup to my wants and needs, of course using 3D printing to achieve it. Oh, I forgot, I do want to do all of this for less than the cost of the tripod I'm currently filming on. Not for the whole setup, obviously, camera, audio gear, that stuff is additionals, but the base stand itself, I want to keep it under budget. Let's see how we do. We're going to be building up and up with this stand. Of course, it's going to be raising in height for adjustability. We're going to be adding things to the top, which means we need to consider the base of it. Sure, the smaller footprint and the wheels are excellent for maneuverability, especially in this smaller space, but they also mean not as much structure. There's a reason tripods spread out as far as they do, and when you're putting thousands of dollars worth of camera equipment on them, that matters. I'm going to approach this in a slightly different way though. The easy, cheap, simple thing to do is sandbags. These are very common in grip gear. You use them at the base of a stand, like a C-stand, to weigh it down and provide some ballast so the top isn't overpowering the bottom. Keep the center of gravity lower. I am going to use something a little bit different. I'm going to use a UPS. This contains lead acid batteries and weighs 22 pounds. A typical sandbag is anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds. Now, I'm using the UPS because I have it. Its weight, it's gonna do what I need to do. And I wanted to add a power strip to this mounting situation because I wanna be able to power the camera and additional stuff we'll see in a little bit off of something and not have a bunch of cords running all over the place. Batteries are great, but then you have to charge batteries. Now this will have a battery backup setup too. So not only will I have the power strip I need, but if the power goes out in the middle of a live stream or while I'm filming, I will still have power output from this to at least safely shut things down or say, hey folks, gotta end a stream, something like that. But clearly there's not exactly just somewhere to mount this thing on this stand. So that's where this random scrap of wood that I found comes in. It's going to set across these legs with a little help from some 3D printing. I designed up these 3D printable brackets that go onto the legs here and will hold on securely, providing a little more structure to this base, hopefully, and give me a platform to mount the battery backup onto. Off camera, I cut down the board so that it would fit the application a little bit better, rounded off the corners and such. Then it's as simple as just screwing it to those brackets that are attached to the legs now. Now, even just setting this UPS onto this little shelf and moving this around, it feels so much more stable than it did before. But I do want to mount it a little more securely. I thought about plenty of ways I could design some 3D printable clamps or something that would hold this to here. And then I realized that I over-engineer everything, so for now, I'm just gonna try a bungee strap. The board looking the way it does is temporary. I will take this back apart and paint that. Famous last words. Hopefully by the end of this video though. With our base a little more solid, it's time to start building our way up with this thing. I've got a handful of accessories from B&H that I'm going to use to build this out. Thank you to B&H for providing these for this build, by the way. Find affiliate links in the description if you want to pick any of these up for yourself. Obviously, we're building an entire camera support system here, so the first thing we're going to worry about is mounting the camera. I'm going to use this super clamp to mount to the stand itself, then this extension arm that will go into the super clamp, and in the end of that extension goes this spigot stud with a 1/4 inch thread on the top here. And on the end of that threading goes this Benro tripod head, in my case. The links that I have in the description, I'm going to put a more generic tripod head because this is honestly overkill for this purpose. You can find decent ones that'll work just fine for this a lot cheaper. That is seriously it for camera mounting. It's straightforward, it's easy to reposition in different heights, to rotate around here, to pivot on the tripod head. I'm actually really tempted to put a handful of these together so I can have them around the studio and get different camera angles and different setups, maybe in the future. Now I already showed the video, but I didn't mention it by name. DSLR Video Shooter's original video, I think it's the OG of this single stand setup, is definitely the recipe that I'm following. Right down to this vice grip clamp here that's gonna go on to the main pole for our audio gear. This gives us a baby pin to mount to with a pretty standard grip head. Don't worry, I have more twists of my own coming to this with more 3D printing any moment. That grip head holds onto a pretty basic microphone arm. I'm not sure if I love this setup, honestly. I like that it can get me a little bit closer to the camera with this extension sticking off of here, but the repositioning of the microphone, not ideal with this setup, so I might revisit this later with an update. Now the microphone I'm going to use on that arm requires XLR with phantom power. For that, I use this Zoom F3 audio recorder. It can record 32-bit float internally. I don't do that, honestly. I don't find a need for my own personal productions, but what I do use it for is just an audio interface between the microphone and my camera, or to my computer when I'm live streaming, because this can be used as a USB interface. I'm mounting it with a simple small rig clamp and a small magic arm. That's just the way I do it. I just need to be able to reposition it so I can see it for checking audio levels and making sure that it's on and powered up while I'm recording, so I have audio, because I've made that mistake one too many times. Now the microphone that I showed at the beginning of this and that I'm going to be using on this setup is the Deity S-Mic 2S. A little bit of a weird name to say, but it's a short cardioid shotgun microphone, so it's really good for projecting reverb, unlike my lavalier microphone in this space right now, but I have to process in post. It comes with a little mount, and that's what I'm going to use to mount it for right now. This mount isn't the nicest thing. It doesn't have any shock absorption, but I shouldn't have any shock going through the microphone with this setup since I won't be touching it. Before we get to lighting, which this base needs plenty of help with, there's a glaring problem that I have with my video productions that I want to help solve with this. I manually focus my camera almost all the time. I'm doing so right now. I don't even know if this is in focus right now because I only have the little screen on the camera to check focus when I'm in front of the camera. That's where this is going to come in, and we got to make a mount to put this on there. Well, first we should probably check if the monitor that's going to go on this is even going to work. You see, I record my videos at 24 frames per second. If you want to argue that more frames is better when it comes to recording videos, go ahead and leave it in the comments. But not all monitors accept 24 FPS. These on-camera dedicated monitors, they definitely do, but this 7-inch one, even a few feet away from me, my eyes aren't what they used to be. I can't see whether I'm in focus or not that well from a distance. So I want something with a little bit bigger image on it. But I don't even know if this monitor is going to work. Let's power it on and find out. You're plugged in, turn on. Oh, powering on. Acer logo. Fun fact, this is actually a 170 Hertz monitor, but I also don't know whether it can accept a 24 FPS input. So yeah, DisplayPort, it's cycling through the inputs. I'm gonna try changing to a 30 FPS setup for a second and just see if this will work with that, just so I can test it. I was wrong, it does work. I didn't even have to change my FPS. I just had to stop recording and start again. Now it's working. And we've got monitor cam reception. Proof of concept down. This will accept a 24 FPS signal all the way up to 170 Hertz. So let's see about getting this mounted on our stand. This is kind of ridiculous right now. Quick Fusion design tip for you here on this part. I took a photo of this with a ruler because I can calibrate an image when I pull it into Fusion. I right click on the image in the canvases, hit calibrate, and then I can pick 2 points and tell the software how big those 2 points are, the distance between them, so that it scales properly. And then I can work off of this to design my mount. This is the mount that I ended up with as my final design for this. It's going to print in this vertical orientation at pretty thick layer heights, but I still want to try and save some time on it, I think, so I decided after I got it in the slicer to cut it in half and take a couple chunks off of it, just to try and get this done quicker. Cutting it down a bit is going to help with any misalignment between each end of the bracket, in case my photo was a little off because of perspective and such, and it's also just going to save time for less material needing to be printed. Then 2 hours later, printing at 0.55mm layer height with a 0.8mm nozzle, I've got my parts printed out. The new high flow nozzles on this Mark IV are excellent. I'm installing a handful of 1/4-inch threaded inserts with flanges because they're a nice strong design and they'll match the threading of a lot of camera gear at 1/4-inch 20. Now, I'm also using heat press inserts, one of course so I have strong threads to thread into, but also to help provide a little strength and structure between the layers, help to melt them together a little bit and hopefully strengthen these parts. With the mounts for my monitor arm in hand, I can work on getting this mounted, but I do see one glaring problem with where I want to put it. You see, I'd like this to be down here below this bottom adjustment point. That monitor at 27 inches with a built-in power supply, not the lightest thing around, so this will help to keep the center of gravity lower. Also, it means that the whole stand will be able to be collapsed down lower for lower angles when filming, but also just not being in the way as much. The more stuff I mount above this point, the less I can collapse this whole thing down in the end, so I need to consider that. So what's the problem? It's that I designed these to slip over this stand. I knew I would have to remove this knuckle to make that happen, but that means that everything above this has to come off the stand so I can put this on. I have to undo everything I just did. I'm gonna do that and come back once I've got it all back together. With the pair of these slid over here and now ready to be positioned, they're loose, but they'll get aligned by the monitor mount as I get it mounted on here, which should be pretty straightforward if anything about my design is working properly, which it appears to be. Now with the monitor on there, the whole thing is actually surprisingly solid and stable, even with the monitor extended kind of all the way out here. Like, don't get me wrong, it's got some wiggle, but I don't feel at all like it's gonna tip over. I have to kind of try and make it. So, yay! I also now have the ability to swivel this on this mount, angle it up, angle it down, up, down, in, out, all around. So I'll be able to use this for live streams. I can hook this up to the computer and pull up chat or my OBS stream on here, or teleconferences, meetings. I could pull up the meeting group on here and have the camera there. Or of course the original intent, actually see when I'm in focus or not. Now the only thing missing from this equation at this point is some type of lighting option and cable management. Cable management, I'm gonna take care of off camera because that stuff's annoying. But as far as lighting is concerned, I've got a couple of these grip heads here, and I always hate adjusting. I can go onto this baby pin on the top of this whole assembly and I can mount a light off to the side a little bit and maneuver it around. I'm not sure if I want to do this though. I am going to set up a light on this and show you a final result of this setup, what it looks like filming in this space and using this thing. But for me personally, I really prefer these boom arms, these telescoping arms that you can get from Impact as well. You can change height on them, angle, you can swivel them around, you can extend them out. They're just really good for repositioning lights all over the place. And I imagine I'm gonna mount 1 or 2 of these in this space. They go on the wall. I've seen people use them on the ceiling. The wall is the best place to put them. But as I said earlier in this video, this space is getting a major overhaul, so these are gonna have to wait. Let's jump to when this thing is all together, see the final results of it, and talk about whether or not it was worth it or what it cost in the end. And here is beta version 1. Now, for a light source, I landed on using this Falconized light mat. If you're not familiar, this is basically a flat, flexible sheet with a bunch of LEDs strapped to it. So even with a softbox attached to it, it's much shallower than other lighting options. So it takes up a lot less space in a room like this. Ideal for a situation like setting up on here, and it also keeps the center of gravity a little more centered toward the stand itself. You don't have a big light hanging off the front of this. I also decided to add another piece of hardware to this whole configuration, so I needed one more 3D printed mount. I designed this mount to accept LTT cable ties, so the hardware I install can be easily removed for other uses. That is this Razer Thunderbolt 4 dock. I've shown this before in my previous studio's one cable live streaming setup. Now I'm attaching it to the stand, so I not only have a one stand YouTube setup, but I can, again, one cable off of this stand back to my computer and use this for a live streaming setup as well. This also simplifies things a little bit on this setup. Instead of having a power brick to supply power to my audio interface, because it can run off of USB-C power delivery, well, this thing is supplying power to it and serving as a USB connection for it back to the main computer when I have this in live stream mode. Same as it can supply a DisplayPort signal to the monitor when I want that for OBS or stream chat monitoring. One thing I can definitely note is this is not as stable as I wish it was. If I just grabbed it up here toward the middle and pulled it to get it to move, it would tip over. Now, I am using it on a padded carpet bedroom floor, not an office or a concrete floor, so I need to grab it at the bottom to wheel it around. However, it's not difficult to do. And once I maneuver this stand where I want it to be, well, that's where things really get unlocked and you get a shot that looks like this. After I clean up the office space and completely reorganize it, anyway, this is what you get. But this is the setup that I see from my perspective right now. I've got this monitor where I can see that I am in focus and confidently know that. I just have to remember to find the lens and not stare at the monitor all the time. I've got my audio equipment, I've got a light. This microphone is right here where I need it to be. And you're actually listening to me on this microphone, not the lavalier. I'm just using this to sync up the audio in post. I've got a battery backup, and I also have that one cable live stream set up now back to the big computer. And this is probably what my next stream is gonna look like right here. This is just an example of what I want this space to be. If I only have 10 foot by 12 foot to work with, I need to make maximum use of it. Being able to film both directions in this space is going to be critical to getting all of the angles and shots that I might want. Way back at the beginning of this video, I did say I had one more goal for this setup, and that was to be cheaper than that tripod that I've been using in this space. So where did we land on that? Well, the tripod from Benro doesn't seem to be available anymore, but it was MSRP $429. This entire configuration here, which bear in mind, I picked the exact hardware I used, which I think some of the items might have been on sale when I got them, but today's price, it adds up to $422.86. That is including a sandbag in place of the UPS and none of the lights, the monitor, or the camera. That is all gonna have to be up to you. That is everything that's holding my equipment. Could it be done cheaper? Absolutely. Shop around used. I'm sure you could find a handful of these items. I've got a couple of C-stands in my studio that I picked up for free from a marketing place that was shutting down. Deals are out there. For me, for my setup, I'm thrilled with the way this has turned out. I'm sure this is beta version. I am sure this is going to evolve. Maybe I'll do some more 3D printed upgrades to this thing as I go. I expected to end up with more than I did on here, but I'm really happy with the 3D printed parts I did get onto here. So Thank you for following along with this little journey. If you want to see maybe updates I do along the way, let me know in the comments. Maybe we'll do a round 2 of this, or you can probably catch them on Instagram or Twitter as I make them. All right, folks, I'm sure you're gonna see this setup in a Mandic Labs live stream real soon. Get subscribed to that channel if you're not already. Maybe check out that one cable live streaming setup that I did in my last studio space over here, or get subscribed to ensure your 3D prints don't fail. It's not a guarantee, but it can't hurt. See you, folks. This is comfortable.